Hey folks, Cool18 here, and welcome to Let's Try Magic 2015 Duels of the Planeswalkers. So this is the latest iteration of one of the two computerized versions of the very popular card game Magic the Gathering. Personally, I've played Magic the Gathering for at least 20 years now, including some tournament play in real life with the real life cards. In terms of software, the game's always been a little bit rough. There was the actual Magic the Gathering Online, which is the full suite of all the cards, lots of tournament play and competition, and is actually pretty good like that, except the interface is certainly on the rough side. And then you have this Duels of the Planeswalker, which is meant to be a little bit more of a lightweight introduction, where you're just playing with the cards from the basic set as opposed to all of the expansions. It's a lot more user-friendly. It's got a great single-player mode with actually a really impressive AI, and it also has a multiplayer mode as well. If you want to play against friends or random online people, you can do that. Now, in some of the previous versions of the Duels of the Planewalker, you could not really do deck construction. You're basically playing pre-made decks with a couple of options to tweak things about. But now there is quite a substantial deck builder built in. If we go, for example, into the my equipped deck over here and edit my deck, I've only got the one. You can unlock a deck out of there, I don't know, probably a couple of dozen options just by going through the tutorial. And then after that, every time you play a game, you can get a booster pack, which unlocks a few more cards. So here's my actual deck down here at the bottom. And at the top, I've got a variety of other cards that I have unlocked that I could add to the deck kind of at will. There's some pretty nice filtering things here, including sorting by color, including you can set more than one filter if you want. So this would be all blue and white cards only, which is the color of my deck, and you can also filter by the mana cost, the rarity level, and the card type. You can also get some card suggestions, which is pretty handy. Down here, you can actually get some stats about your deck and see how things are constructed as well. So actually, I really like that they finally have proper, well, or more recently, I should say, have proper deck building here. So if you've only played like the very original versions of Duel of the Planeswalker, you might want to come back and take a look at that kind of aspect. I'm still not a huge fan of a lot of the UI. It feels very console-centric to me. It's very awkward to maneuver some of the menus with just the mouse because, like, you kind of, like, doing this sort of click and drag, like, I can't scroll wheel. It's really weird. It works a little bit better if I just use the arrow keys on my keyboard. And the thing is, this is a game that is available for consoles, although I don't believe that 2015 will be available on the PlayStation, if I'm recalling correctly. And it is very popular on the console. I know a lot of people who own, I think, Xboxes that have this game and like it quite a bit. So there's a little bit of menu weirdness involving the mouse. That's not really as present within the game itself, though. There is a built-in shop. The game's not free, and there is a built-in shop. If you would like to speed things up, you can purchase some additional boosters for $1.99 US. And see, these menu transitions kind of drive me bonkers too. I'm not sure who decided that that would be a good idea. Or you can unlock every card in the game for $20. So, you know, there's certainly a pay-to-accelerate kind of aspect in there, which is a little bit bizarre considering it's not a free-to-play game, and I find that a little bit strange. That being said, let's go in and actually play a match, and we'll do that. I do enjoy it quite a bit. There are some options that you can mess around with. Card collection, help and options over here, maybe. Load, maybe. There we go. So settings, your basic kind of difficulty level. I've got it, I believe, set to max. It is totally unclear what the difficulties are. I'm assuming Planeswalker is the highest difficulty, but it's actually not clear. I'm thinking Mage is the lowest, Archmage is above that, and Planeswalker, which is what your character is in Magic, is there. Toggles what the quick duel button does. All right, that seems interesting. Display hints, tips, server-driven content. If we go over here, resolution options, there's a few things. It's not a very graphical game, so there's really a limit to what you need to worry about tweaking. Audio options. Over here, in the preferences, I guess I'm going to turn the combat animations back on. I find them a little long and tedious when I'm playing, just because I like a very fast, snappy game myself. But they do look very nice, so I'm going to put them on again, and may as well put on the zoomed played cards again, which is helpful when you're starting off. Those are there by default. And a few other things. Again, sort of automatic options you can turn off or on. Auto land is something that you can have enabled when you are building decks. It's on by default. Hold priority is a more advanced sort of game option that you can use if you're a Magic player. So the problem is, of course, Magic the Gathering was originally designed for a physical product, so not all of the features in game translate to the most convenient thing in a in a computer version. So there is a tutorial. It's pretty good. You can go through it, and at the end of it, again, you will unlock a deck. There's a campaign you can play with sort of kind of progressively more difficult opponents and a very basic story, but not much. And then you can just practice duel against different things. We'll go ahead and drop into the campaign. So in the 2015 version here, I've cleared the first campaign world, which was Innistrad, and now it's right here. Or no, we're in Theros. Let me hop back one level here. Will it let me do that? Unnecessarily long cut screens. There we go. So I've cleared this area here, so I'm going to start Theros. I haven't played any of these decks yet, or any of these opponents yet, so it's possible that I will lose in this first game. We'll see how it goes. So we're going to be fighting a Hydra, apparently. Take a look at what that is. And I'm playing a blue-white sort of control-y deck that is really based around the idea of getting 1 or 2 creatures with flight out and then just sort of pecking people to death with that while I defend on the ground. As you move through the thick forest, inscrutable hissing comes from every direction. Suddenly a monstrous creature lunges at you. Its many heads strike out, hungry for flesh. And that's like more or less the extent of the story that you're going to get playing this. And that's okay. You're mostly in it for the card playing. And really, I would suggest that the core of this game is the multiplayer, not the single player. The single player is just a good way to learn the game and maybe unlock some decks before you go and be competitive. So here's my starting hand here. I've got 3 land, which is not a bad start at all. Something that costs 2, a couple things that cost 3. And a high-end removal card that's not quite as critical. I think I'll keep this hand, though, rather than mulligan, because it is vaguely acceptable. We'll start off by playing a Plains. So the way Magic works is you play land. You can play 1 land every turn, and the land gives you a certain amount of mana. So you can see the mana in the top right corner here. So Raise the Alarm here. It costs 1 white mana and 1 mana of any color whatsoever. So it could be 2 white, a white and a blue, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and drop an island down, which gives me blue mana here. And I may as well go and... actually, I suppose I can wait on the Raise the Alarm. It's a spell that puts 2 1/1 creatures in. That's 1 attack and 1 toughness creatures into play. And what's unusual about that is usually this is just a creature card. For example, the Windrake. You just put it in and you play it directly. But this is a spell that will summon the tokens, and being an instant, I can actually cast it at the end of my opponent's turn and be a little bit more sneaky that way. So I will go ahead and do that. I will go ahead and continue. So there's 4 phases, basically. There's a pre-combat main phase, then combat, then post-combat main phase, and then an end phase. And I will be casting during my opponent's end phase this instant. So I had to pause the timer here, because every player has the opportunity to make actions during these various phases. But by default, they'll sort of go through by themselves. So you've got to stop them and pause them at the right time. So this is at the end of the Hydra's turn. I will go and cast Raise the Alarm, which will put 2 creatures into play. And then on my turn, I'll be able to attack. Creatures come into play with something called Summoning Sickness, so they can't attack the first turn that they're summoned. So even if I'd play this on my turn, I wouldn't have been able to attack with these creatures. Now I cast it on his turn, so as of the start of my turn, the Summoning Sickness goes away, and I can now attack. Go ahead and put another Plains down. And, I can't, what do I want to do? It would be really handy if I can get a Mentor of the Meek out relatively quick, because if I get 1 more mana, then the Mentor of the Meek will allow me to pay an extra mana when I play a creature and to draw a card, which is a pretty nice little setup. So, I'm actually going to attack for, that's the one thing with this interface. I was trying to slide it back into my hand to cancel it, but apparently that's not how it works. I think I'd have to hit escape to cancel that out, but it feels very unintuitive to me. If I can drag it out, I feel I should be able to drag it back in. Of course, I have been playing a lot of another very popular card game called Hearthstone, where that sort of mechanic can happen, so you kind of get used to it. Anyway, this is the attack phase. I've got to choose which creatures to attack with. I'm going to go ahead and click both. I could have also hit the attack all button. You can see withdraw all, attack all, for example, and attack. And again, if you're used to some of the other card games, you don't attack creatures. You always attack the enemy directly, and the enemy has the option, if the enemy has creatures out, to block you. And so that can be a bit of a hard thing learning Magic initially the first time, whether or not you've played any other card game ever. So just keep that in mind if you are new to the game. So we'll go ahead and finish this game, see what's going on. So he's just played Scourge of Skola Vale, which I've never seen before. Costs 3. It's a 0/0 with Trample. Scourge of the Skola Vale enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it. So it's basically a 2/2 creature. Tap and sacrifice another creature. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on the Scourge equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. So this thing can eat other creatures, its own, like the friendly creatures, because you can only sacrifice something you control to make itself grow. And it does have Trample, which is a little bit scary. That might actually be a bit of a problem. I do have a couple of cards that I can use to deal with it, notwithstanding... oh, yeah, you can just continue. The Angelic Edict that can remove this thing from the game if it gets a little bit too big, but I would need a little bit more mana for it. Luckily, I did draw another island, so then I'll only need one more to cast Angelic Edict if it's a problem. Now, I would like to still attack, but the problem is he will get the option of blocking, and will almost certainly just block one of my 1/1 soldiers and kill it and not take damage in return. In Magic the Gathering, all creatures get healed at the end of every turn, so doing 1 damage to this does not kind of advance me. I could attack with the Minotaur the Meek, but if they trade, I don't want that. Because I would actually kind of like to keep this guy alive so I could use this card draw ability. And although the AI might not want to trade either, because he might want to grow the Hydra, so we'll see how it goes. So for now, I don't think I will attack. I could save mana for a Nullify, which allows me to target a creature or aura spell. And that might not be a bad idea, because if I stop him from putting out another creature, he's not going to be able to feed the Hydra. That being said, I kind of like the idea of casting Standing Troops, because if I do that, I'll be able to draw a card with Minotaur the Meek. On the flip side, he probably won't attack if I've got this out here. So what am I ultimately going to do? You know what? I'm going to put out the Standing Troops, like so. And then I will activate his ability. There we go. It's a triggered thing. I will indeed pay 1 and draw a card, because drawing cards is very good. Oh, the Righteous Blow is going to be a great spell to use a little bit later. I will skip the attack phase here because I don't want to just randomly lose anything. I could attack with both soldiers, sacrificing 1 to do 1 point of damage, but it's not really worthwhile. The game ends when your opponent is out of life, or if someone runs out of cards, the game will also end instantly, and it is possible to build decks that could do that. So he just built a second Hydra, which is kind of interesting. I don't think there'd be much point for him to eat one with the other, but it's conceivable that he might do something like that. So I'm going to throw down 1 more island, so now I'm up to a total of 5 mana. So I've got a few options here. I could do the Angelic Edict, but I don't think that's necessary quite yet. It is very tempting. What I think I might do... Ooh, I don't have enough mana for that. I was going to say, put down the Windrake and Nullify, but if I do that, I won't be able to use the card draw over here. Because I would still like to be able to counter if he plays another card. But I think it is a priority actually to get down a flying creature so I can start to deal damage with them. Flying creatures can generally only be blocked by other flying creatures that will fly above these two. So now I've got this big 1/4 that can basically just soak 1 attack every turn. And I should be able to defend myself relatively well from any attack. And then I should just be able to kill him over time with the flying creatures. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that down. And I will not save mana for the Nullify. I will actually use the card draw. Because cards are good. And I, again, will skip the attack phase. So the deck that I'm playing is a relatively slow deck, unfortunately. It might not be the greatest example of something to play for this, because it is very slow and methodical. But again, yeah, see, the AI will not attack. And that is correct. The AI generally seems to make good decisions. Another one of those. Now, here's the thing. In the campaign mode, I'm pretty sure the AI doesn't actually play... a regular deck. I think they have theme decks with very weird stuff. His deck may literally be full of these Hydras. And that's actually what the campaign is made for. You can... Oh, he's actually eating his creatures to grow. That actually works out extremely well for me for a couple of different reasons. So, it is my turn. I've got a Plains. I may as well put down the extra mana. So, there's 2 reasons this is really good for me. Because I can just destroy this creature. Exiling it basically just removes it from the game. I can destroy it this way with this spell, but I could also use the Surakar Banisher. It's a 3/3, and when it comes into the battlefield, I can return a creature to its owner's hand. So he'll be able to recast it, but it'll get rid of the tokens, because I'll get rid of this creature, put it back in its hand. When he recasts it, it'll only be a 2/2. And it'll delay him quite a bit, which I like. Then I'll still have the option of doing an Angelic Edict a little bit later on. Plus, I can save enough mana to do a Nullify, actually. I can bounce it back to his hand and then just Nullify it, which is probably what I will do. Now, oh, I'm wrong about my mana count. I'm sorry. I won't be able to Nullify it if it casts it again. I could also use Righteous Blow. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the Banisher. If I tap Control, I can change which lands get tapped for the colorless. I want to save 1 white mana, and I will do that. I guess I don't have to cast it first before combat, but you know what? We'll go ahead and do that. That'll be fine. So I will target this. I should have used the Righteous Blow sooner. Just too busy talking, not enough time talking, or thinking. So I will go and attack with everything. I will do that, and I will wait until he declares a blocker, and then I will stop the timer. Like that. There we go. Timer stopped. So he has declared that he is going to block this creature here. Now, I can use Righteous Blow to deal 2 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, so I will do that. My creature will still be blocked, but this thing will die before they exchange damage to each other, so my knight will still be alive. And more importantly, I will have killed this creature here. Zap. There we are. Now the combat damage will be dealt. All these little animations, if you turn off the option in the options that I enabled at the beginning of this video, you'll skip this phase, these sort of animations, and the damage will happen instantly. It is like a nice little effect, and certainly early on it makes it more clear exactly what is happening. But I think once you get used to the idea, it's quite nice to just turn that off and have the turns go faster. Not a surprise, the Scourge that I bounced, he cast again. Still down to 3 mana. He might have some bigger creatures in there, it might just be mana blocked. And which is definitely something that can happen in Magic the Gathering if you just don't draw enough land. Triplicate Spirits. Put 3/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying into the battlefield. This costs 6 mana. It's got Convoke. If I zoom in here, if I right-click on the card, I can zoom in, and I can also get more mana. It'll explain what flying does. It'll explain what Convoke does, which basically lets me tap creatures effectively for mana. It reduces the cost of the spell. But I can basically tap creatures for mana. So if I had drawn this earlier, what I could have done is use my soldiers to make this, to cast this with only 4 mana, like 2 whites and then 4 colorless. So a total of 6 is what this normally costs. I could have used only 4 land to cast that creature, but now I can cast it legitimately. But I think it's become much more important for me to keep that Nullify up at this point. So I will just skip to the next combat phase here. I will attack with a flyer, the 3/3. And you know what? I think it's fine. If he wants to trade a creature for Minotaur the Meek, that's fine. And then I'll also attack with the Standing Troops. He can block the Standing Troops and basically nothing will happen, but that will ensure that I put more damage through. Or he can decide to trade with the Minotaur the Meek, and I'm going to be okay with that at this point. He can't block the flyer, and if he decides to block the 3/3, his creature will die and mine will be alive. He's got no mana left, so I know he's got no instance that he can use to sort of screw me up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. In fact, to speed up the game, it might be a good idea to attack with all the soldiers. I'm going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He'd block probably one of these, which would do 9 damage. I think either way, I've more or less got lethal next turn. But you know what? Let's go ahead and just attack with everything. If he decides to kill one of these soldier tokens at this point, that's fine. He might still trade for the Minotaur the Meek, and he does. And you know what? I think I'm okay with that. And we'll skip through these animations. You can click to make the cards go away a little bit faster. And they will just kill each other. That is quite a cool effect with the sort of blood splatter and stuff. There we go. I think I will just hit continue. I'll be ready to nullify any creature you might put down. And honestly, I'm not sure what he could possibly put down at this point that would cause me a problem. He's just got, that's what his theme is. It's just literally more of this. So yeah, I acknowledge you cast that, but I will nullify that creature like that. I'm going to respond to his spell cast. The creature never came into play. I countered it before he cast it. Oh, he's got another forest. Yeah, and normally in Magic, there is a limit of 4 of each creature type, or 4 of any card type in the deck. So the fact that he's only cast this, clearly this AI has that as a theme. So this might not have been an ideal example of a real game. Moon Heron, 3/2 flyer, pretty cool, but it's unnecessary. He's only got 4 hit points left. I'm just going to go ahead and attack with everything and finish the game. That is a quick little demo of Magic the Gathering. I suppose that was relatively short. Maybe I'll see what the next opponent is in this campaign. It'll be nice to see. Again, it might be another sort of weird theme type of stuff, but it still gives you an idea about how the game is played. So much overkill. Unnecessary cutscene. Quillitine wins. Go me. Gotta hit continue. Unlocked a new booster. Well, let's open it right away. We'll get some new cards. Traveler's Amulet. Pay 1 and sacrifice the amulet to search your library for a basic land card. Reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. I mean, it does help you get more land out, which is good, and also thins out your library ever so slightly, which is good. I'm not convinced that that's a particularly strong card, unless you got a really weird sort of ramp deck going on. What does the Satyr do? 1/1. I'm not used to the... I haven't played much Magic in a long time, or the Magic that I have played are with cards that are 10 plus years old, so I'm not familiar with all these. When it comes to play, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them in your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. This is interesting for 2 things. One, it again helps you sort of thin out your deck and find more land to make sure you can keep reliably putting down land, but also by putting the other cards in your graveyard can actually work out with a lot of decks. There's a lot of green and black effects that allow you to pull things out of your graveyard or resurrect them or, you know, bring them back as undead, and various other mechanics like that. So it's actually a pretty cool thing. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains haste until end of turn. I'm not sure what Scry 1 does. The only thing I found is when, and here again with this, like my mouse wheel sometimes highlights the card and sometimes scrolls things. I don't understand. Like I'm just sort of mouse wheeling around, and sometimes it zooms in on stuff, and sometimes it scrolls the list. Like, I don't know. It's a very, very weird system. You can click and drag, which I guess is the way they want you to use it, but I don't know. I find it kind of weird. So there you go. So I got a bunch of cards out of that pack. I don't think I'm going to mess around with my deck right now, unless there's something really tempting. Turn target creature. Can't be blocked is actually a pretty good way to get someone killed, but I've got flying creatures for that right now, so we're going to be okay. Destroy target attacking or blocking creature. This is like a buffed up version of the one that I used to kill, and frankly, with the cost, I'd much rather the one that just deals 2 damage rather than this version of it. Heck, for 5 mana, I can get something that exiles a creature enchantment right out. Dissolve, counter target spell. Nothing wrong with that. Mercurial Pretender. Oh, he's kind of fun. And I do have one in my deck, but I don't think I'll be adding any more. So let's go ahead to the second challenge in this, the second chapter of the campaign, and we'll see. Yeah, so it's like second world, second mission. Minotaur Stampede. I expect it's going to be another heavily themed deck going on here, and we'll see how it goes. With a dreadful bellow, a mob of brutal Minotaurs charges. So what, do you have a deck full of just Minotaurs and nothing else? That would be a little bit dull to have 2 in a row. Triplicate Spirits, we've got again. It's quite expensive. We've got the Righteous Blow, which could buy me some time. And Nimbus Wings, which is a great enchantment. But I have no practical creatures in this draw. Good land. I think I'm going to keep it anyway, because sometimes, you know, you can get screwed on a mulligan. Minotaur Stampede plays first, which means I get a draw first. Makes it more likely I'll start to get creatures. I think I'm going to keep the hand, even though this might actually be a mistake. So yeah, if you start, you don't get to draw a card first turn. That's the disadvantage starting first, but honestly, starting first is a massive, massive advantage in Magic. It is definitely much more powerful. And we drew another land, which is far from ideal. It's like, yeah, we'll have enough to cast Triplicate Spirits in 6 turns, and then we'll be dead. Fellhide Brawler. So it is a Minotaur-type creature. It's a 2/2. Fellhide Brawler can't block unless you control another Minotaur. Okay, so he can't use this to block unless he's got another Minotaur, but probably he does. I will be able to use the Righteous Blow to kill this as soon as it decides to attack me. Ah, okay, well, we got our Mentor the Meek again, which is pretty good. Got nothing else we can cast right now, but if he does attack me, I'll probably kill it with the Righteous Blow. There's another Minotaur. Oh, yeah, I know what haste is. Oh, that's really annoying, actually. And when Minotaur Skull Cleaver enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Okay. All right, so it's got haste, so it's going to be able to attack the first turn. We'll probably end up killing that one, so we avoid taking 4. Plus, the other one technically has a disadvantage, which is nice. So we're going to wait until he declares his attackers. Like that. We will stop the timer. I will cast Righteous Blow. I will target that guy. Blam. Now, you know, this seems pretty good, the Righteous Blow, but you've got to remember, if you're playing red, you can get Shock, which it costs 1, is an instant, and deals 2 damage to any creature, period. Actually, it might be any creature or player, which gives it a little bit more flexibility. I'll drop a plane just so I can get some blue mana going, but it's not really a rush right now. And we do have another creature, finally, the Trained Caracal. But I think the right thing to do would be to play the Mentor the Meek. Next turn, we'll play the Trained Caracal and be able to draw a card off the Mentor the Meek at the same time, which will be pretty nice. Really like the Nimbus Wings. It gives the enchanted creature +1/+2 and flying. It actually works nicely with a Caracal because it's got lifelink. Any damage it deals, I get healed by that much. And unlike something like Hearthstone, you can go above your maximum. You can actually, like, you know, go to 50 health, 60, 70, whatever. There's no actual limit on the number of hit points you can have in this game. So by having a flyer with lifelink that's hard to block, I can actually get a lot of hit points back that way. However, this turn is going to hurt. And the question is, do I want to block with my Mentor the Meek to save myself 4 damage and trade creatures? I don't think so. I think I'm going to take the hit because I really like the draw potential of this, but it is a bit of a hard decision. So I'm going to skip blocking here. It's going to hurt a little bit. Hopefully we're going to be okay. This actually might be a loss. Bit of a rough draw, and it's a pretty aggro start here. If I can get some more blockers or something, like my 1/4 guys, then we might be able to stabilize quite quickly. Luckily, that +2 to hit goes away after the end of the turn. So, what did we pick up? We picked up Moon Heron, 3/2 flyer. Good for killing things. Doesn't really accelerate my overall plans. I think the right thing to do will be to put down the Trained Caracal, pay the 1 mana, draw a card, and then possibly put a Nimbus on the Caracal right away, which actually would make him strong enough to block here. Yes, we will definitely pay 1 to draw a card. Yeah, so yeah, I can hit control to toggle if it's going to use a white or a blue. I will use a white just to keep my options a little more open, because I'll still have 1 white left over. Thanks for the reminder, though. Ah! Okay, I like that better. Because I was going to say, it's not a great idea to put down Nimbus Wings this turn, because he actually won't be able to attack this turn, and it's possible the Minotaur will be able to deal with my creature before I ever get a chance to take advantage of it. Ideally, you save this for right before you attack. By picking up Raise the Alarm, I have something else I can cast that summons creatures, and I'll do the same thing, where I save up and before putting the instant down, and I'll actually wait until he attacks me. I'll cast Raise the Alarm, and then use these goons to kill these guys over here. So I will simply continue now, and I will actually go ahead and attack with my Mentor the Meek, because I don't intend to defend with them, at least not yet. I'm hoping that we might be able to use his ability again. Although I am starting to get a little bit low, and I don't have another creature that he can trigger off of yet. I guess the thing is, if I did put Nimbus Wings on this guy, I would be able to use him to block this turn and not lose him. Assuming that he doesn't have something that can then zap this guy. You know what? Okay, I'm going to attack with the Mentor of the Meek, because it will convince my opponent to attack me back, because well, no. Yes, because I will look defenseless, and then I will use Raise the Alarm to kill it, thereby keeping my Caracal nice and safe. Yeah, that's fine. So I will save my mana, continue. Probably trying to be a little bit too fancy. There's probably a much better play here. It's hard to think and talk at the same time, however. What is this? Fellhide. Oh, yes. Okay. Just another 2/2 Minotaur. Gotcha. So, you're gonna... Oh, another one of these guys with haste. Man, these campaign decks are really weird. This is gonna be a lot of damage, but I know who I'm gonna kill with my instant here. So he's gonna declare. He's gonna be able to attack with 3 creatures. I will then stop the timer and cast Raise the Alarm. Boom. Okay, now we're going to enter the block phase. I'm going to declare these 2 soldiers to block this guy who's temporarily 4/2, and just keep myself a little bit healthy. I'll take another 4 points of damage, and hope that I'm not making a terrible, terrible mistake. Go ahead and do the block. He doesn't have any mana, so I actually don't have to worry about him doing anything wonky to protect his stuff. But still a lot of damage taken up. Clearly, next turn, I will have to actually sacrifice my Mentor in the Meek. I'm going to keep him untapped to use him as a blocker. I think... well, actually, there's a few different things I could do at this point. First of all, let me put down another planes, just to keep things flexible. So I've got 5 mana. So actually, no matter what... Well... No. Yeah, no matter what, I can only cast 1 spell. I could technically put down my Triplicate Spirits now, because I could actually tap one of these creatures to lower the cost slightly. So that's a possibility. But I think what I'm going to do is put Nimbus Wings on my 2/3. And at that point, it's kind of 50-50 if I want to attack with him or not. If I attack with him, I can't use him as a blocker. But I would still gain 2 health, which is pretty good. Plus start whittling this guy down. If I don't attack and I leave him untapped, most likely what will happen is he simply won't attack at all. Unless he puts down another one of those 4/2 guys, in which case I'll probably just trade my Mentor the Meek for it. Well, I think putting down the Nimbus Wings is the correct answer to start off with. The only question is, do I attack and with how many people? If I attack with the Mentor, the Meek, he might just block with that. I'd rather leave my options open for another one of those 4/2 guys. I should probably leave my Caracal untapped. Just buy a little bit of time, try to gain some more board control. So we'll skip attack. I'm pretty low. I've got to worry about death at this point. All right, he's getting more land. Hasn't cast anything pre-combat. He's just going to skip combat and not even cast anything. That's great. He's only got one card in hand, which for all I know could be another land, and that would be pretty good for me. Let's put down an island, figure out what we want to do. Got a 1/3 Maritime Guard. What's great about him, he can block all these 2/2s pretty much forever. In fact, I think what I might do, I don't think I need the Triplicate Spirits, although they could attack with their flying, which is kind of nice. I think the right move to do is to put down the Blue Heron, who I can potentially use as an attacker soon, because I definitely won't want to block with him, because he's just going to die instantly, and the Maritime Guard. And I think I will attack this turn with the Caracal. I've got someone who can just soak a blow, someone who can trade, and theoretically I can threaten to trade with another one, although I wouldn't do that. And the AI is pretty smart. It probably recognizes that. So I think it's safe to start this attack. It will also heal me, remember, because the lifelink, so it doesn't leave me quite as vulnerable as you might imagine here. Deals 2 damage to him, and heals me for 2, back up to 10. All right, and if we can keep doing that, that's the whole point of this deck. Gain control of the board, and then whittle someone down with flyers. Very boring, but very, very effective. Okay, the fact that he's attacking at this point has me a little bit concerned that he might have something up his sleeve, especially since he's got all his mana untapped. That being said, I will still go and set that up. I suppose I could have used my Mentor of the Meek ability with the 1/3 instead of putting down the 3/2, but I think this is okay. I will go ahead and do that. I think it's fine. Let's find out what you got up your sleeve, buddy. Oh, nothing. Okay, we're going to kill each other. You probably just have more creatures than I do. And then these guys are going to fail to kill each other. And really, still nothing. Okay, good. Well, we'll, now if this, oh, God, again, I failed to cancel the spell. Let me try this again. Let me hold it out here and then hit escape. No, right click, no. I don't know how to actually cancel the cast once I've picked up the card. And drag it all the way to the bottom. I mean, I'm okay with casting the spell here. Wow, that is really annoying. So I'm not going to tap any creatures for the Convoke. I've got enough legitimate mana. I was going to say, against a human player, I probably would have kept the extra lands in my hand to fake that I had something that I was saving in case of combat. Although in this case it wouldn't matter, because I guess I would have tapped all my land anyway to cast this spell. But I would have faked that, like, oh, clearly I don't have a land because I didn't put it into play. I've got some useful card here. But yeah, so here I'm gonna go ahead and attack the 2/3 flyer with lifelink. And the 3/2, because I definitely won't want to block with him. I'm going to leave the 1/3 untapped so that he can block. And the others all have summoning sickness, so they can't do anything. So I will go ahead and do that. We're going to hit him for 5 points of damage, and I will once again heal 2. I think we've got this game under control now. But I'm still annoyed at the fact... Let me go into the options. Here we go. And controls. How do I cancel a spell? Cancel action escape. Well, no. That clearly didn't work. I was hitting escape. Certainly a little bit annoying. I'm not sure. I might be simply misunderstanding something. That's entirely possible. But there could also be a glitch. The game just came out today. So it's possible that there's going to be there might be a glitch with a patch, but it's more likely that I'm doing something wrong. But the lack of clarity is also a bad thing. Well, I guess we're just going to block that way. That seems pretty reasonable to me. And then we'll block. I could throw one of these spirits in here to block. The opponent would get to choose how to distribute the damage. They'd probably put 1 point of damage on the spirit to guarantee that it died. So I would lose a card, but I would guarantee a kill back. That being said, I like continuing control. So again, I'm going to keep this Plains in my hand because I'm sneaky that way. And I will just continue to the attack phase. So now the question is, how many flyers do I save? I'm not going to save the 3/2. I'm not going to save the 2/3. You know what? I think I'm just going to go in with all the flyers. If he attacks me with both creatures, I won't be able to block both, but I still won't die. So I'm feeling pretty okay about this. So I'm going to go ahead and attack. So flyers are a little bit less common. And they tend to cost more. Like, for example, this 3/2 for 4. If this were a land-based creatures, this would probably be something more like a 4/4-ish kind of stats, or have another ability. So you are paying a premium for the flying. But they're really good, and you do generally want to keep that in mind when you're constructing a deck, that you're going to have to potentially deal with some flyers. So you're going to want to include your flyers yourself, or there are creatures with reach, that they are ground creatures, but they can block flyers. Green tends to have a lot of them. Everything spider-themed or archer-themed tend to have reach, so they can stop flyers, for example. Or you might just want cards that kill something directly. Demolish. Destroy target artifact or land. Okay, well that has no impact on me whatsoever, unless I happen to pick up a card that requires 2 blue. I'm not sure if I've got one in my deck. Another Fellhide Minotaur. This one's a 2/3. 2/3 for 3. Instead of... Oh, that's a 2/2 for 2. Oh yeah, that's not bad. Are you going to attack with 2 things? You are. Kind of as expected. And yes, I will go ahead and block 1. Let the other one through for 2 points of damage. And I'm pretty sure I just win next turn, because I don't see any way for you to block my flyers, friend. Oh, this one's quite cool. This Vigilance ability means that when this person attacks, and we can see the more info here, creatures with Vigilance don't become tapped when they attack. So I can attack every turn with standing troops and still have it to defend. I love putting Nimbus Wings on the standing troops, because then they become a 2/6 that doesn't tap to attack and has flying. So he can hit you for 2, and he's still a big 2/6 kind of wall that can block pretty much anything you put on the board. Incredibly good. In this case, though, we are just going to go ahead and attack with all, and hit attack. So obviously the AI is never going to be quite the challenge that human players are, and especially in the campaign mode where they've got these sort of gimmicky decks, and the only question is, you know, did you build something that can deal with the gimmick? If not, then go back to the drawing board. It's actually a really good exercise. It's like, okay, I was beaten by a crap ton of 2/2 creatures. So let's build a deck that deals well with 2/2 creatures. Maybe I'll have a bunch of 2/3 creatures in there. Maybe I'll make a red deck that includes a bunch of shock spells that deal 2 points of damage. That sort of thing. And that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to sort of be puzzles that you can think through critically, and quite a bit of fun. So we'll do that. I guess we'll open a new booster pack with a bunch more cards in there. An Asp. See, there's an example of a creature with reach. All right, 4/5 with reach, so this can block flyers. It's 5 casting cost. Remember, my 3/2 flyer cost 4. For 5 casting, I get a 4/5, much bigger. It can still block flyers, and it's got this monstrosity thing where you can, like, make it big. I hate the fact that there's no more info button here. Monstrosity is a newer feature from more recent packs of Magic, and again, I'm a very old school player. I believe, though, it's you pay 7, and it gives your creature +4/+4, like, permanently. You can only do it once, I think. But it turns it into the monstrous version of it, and so it becomes great. So flying creatures, very expensive for, or the other way to say it is, they're relatively weak for their mana cost, but flying is awesome. So there you have it. Oh yeah, I like cultivate, you know, find more lands and do different things and all kinds of nonsense. So red tends to do a lot of direct damage like this, 3 damage to target creature or player. Often you'll use this for creatures because you use them to clear off dangerous things and gain board control. Two-headed Cerberus is interesting, double strike. It deals its damage twice in every combat, basically. One of which is first strike. So if you block this thing with something that only has 1 health, it'll instantly kill that thing with the first strike before that thing ever has a chance to deal damage to the Cerberus. A 1/2 for 3 is not a great cost, but if you include a lot of buff spells or creatures that give +1/+1 to other creatures, this all of a sudden becomes quite a dangerous thing. Discarding is a very black thing. So blue tends to be like weird, bouncy, indirect, sorceress kind of stuff. White does include, generally speaking, a lot of protection and weenies that work well together. Green is a lot of nature stuff, but there also tend to be big monstrous creatures like this Asp, for example. Red has a lot of burn effects, and what did I forget? Well, black has a lot of direct removal, horror spells, and some discard and that sort of thing. Lots of undead magics where like things come back out of your graveyard. Lots of fun, actually. I quite enjoy playing black a lot. My biggest competitive deck ever was a black Necropotence deck back when Necropotence decks were a viable thing. So if you're a Magic player, I think that tells you something about how long ago that was. I could use 4 Dark Rituals, man. It's the sickest thing ever. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this quick let's look at, or let's try, Magic 2015, Duels of the Planeswalker. It is available on Steam. And again, I believe it is available on some consoles. I think it may even have like an iOS version. God, you think, you know, as a sort of person who does this semi-seriously, I should have this information ready for you guys. But that sounds like work. I would rather just play games. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.